Well, after a thrilling midweek of Premier League action, it's an FA Cup special this weekend as the big boys have their sights set on Wembley. There are three all Premier League ties, so could we have some different names involved in May's final? Meanwhile, a recent FA Cup winner could be heading into League One as the Championship season heads to its crescendo. We've got it all covered on this week's Assist. Welcome along to a special FA Cup edition then of The Assist, brought to you in association with freesupertips.com. I'm Warren Ashurst and I've been joined by James Milton. Unfortunately, a late illness issue means that Dan Childs is not with us this week, but James is more than able deputy to give us his thoughts on all of this week's FA Cup fifth round ties. Before we get into it though, don't forget, of course, you can interact with us and give us your thoughts on the Racing Post YouTube channel. And make sure you check out all of freesupertips.com and their daily football hackers and bet builders in the lead up to the weekend's games. Well, let's get straight into it then. And we're going to go in chronological order this week, with it being the FA Cup fifth round. And we'll start off with Friday night's clash at Molineux. It seems like a bit of deja vu as Wolves come up against Liverpool in an 8 o'clock kickoff on Friday. And well, Liverpool will be hoping for better result than what happened on Tuesday, Milts, when, of course, Wolves, despite being second best for long periods, were able to get another impressive home victory.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a remarkable end to the game, wasn't it? The deflected goal, and Wolves certainly rode their luck. But you know, you look at it now; it's 7 points from home fixtures against Arsenal, Aston Villa, and Liverpool. You know, it's got almost sort of title-winning form. And just looking at my emails this morning, had an email from a bookmaker saying that the punters are backing Wolves for a great escape now, which you know you couldn't have seen even sort of 2-3 weeks ago. You know, everyone assumed they'd be playing in the Championship next season. And I think, you know, with this cup game, you've got to factor in that kind of change in mood at Molineux. And I think it's another awkward one for Liverpool. I'm not sure what you think, Warren.
I think it is going to be awkward because obviously having played so close together as well in two games, that memory of Tuesday is fresh in the mind going into it. And it is going to be interesting to see what both managers decide to do in terms of teams, as well as to whether Liverpool make a number of changes to try and freshen things up, whether Wolves might decide, well, actually, like you say, Milts, we could yet still survive and maybe we just rest a few players and look ahead to the league games. I mean, Wolves are 19-4 to claim the victory and get to the quarterfinals. Liverpool 12-25 and the draw 15-4. What are you looking at here for your best bet, Milts?
Yeah, I think those 90-minute odds, I think Liverpool are eminently opposable. I'd be going for the Wolves or draw double chance. You know, like you said, as ever in the FA Cup, there's, you know, questions of motivation. And you know, Arne Slot, we saw last season, he named a second string side and they got knocked out at Plymouth. This season, beat Barnsley and Brighton convincingly at Anfield. But their away form in general is pretty patchy. You know, they even before that defeat at Molineux this week, they scraped 1-0 wins at Sunderland and Forest. So I'm definitely inclined to oppose Liverpool in the 90-minute market here. You know, I think Wolves, you know, do now have a slight chance of staying up. But I just think at the moment, Rob Edwards is just going to be focusing on kind of riding the crest of the wave and you know, just producing another positive performance. I expect him to go a little bit stronger with his team selection than maybe Arne Slot does.
Well, we'll go from an all Premier League tie to a League One versus Premier League clash on Saturday. It's a 12:15 kickoff at Field Mill for Mansfield against Arsenal. Mansfield as big as 18-1 here to pull off a cup upset. It's 14-1 the draw and 14-1 on Arsenal. Couldn't have been a much better midweek for Arsenal, Mills, in terms of the title race. Get a big win at Brighton. Manchester City slip up against Nottingham Forest. And I imagine, we've already mentioned about teams making changes, that Mikel Arteta will try and freshen things up for this one.
I'd have thought so, but, you know, as we've spoken about all season long, Arsenal's strength in depth is really, really helping them in this quadruple bid. I mean, you know, you don't always get what you deserve in football, do you? And it has been a fantastic few days for Arsenal, despite pretty much stinking the place out against Chelsea and Brighton. They managed to cling on for two really, really important results there. And then And then obviously the Forest equalising at Manchester City was the cherry on top for the Gunners. Us punters are superstitious characters usually, and I'm about to write a piece about Arsenal's quadruple odds. So slightly wary that Mansfield could be the team to end that dream this Saturday. Arsenal, as the betting suggests, even a second string Arsenal side should be far too strong. And Mansfield won 2-1 at Burnley in the fourth round. But, this is a very, very different test. And their form in League One's been pretty uninspiring recently. Drew 0-0 at Rotherham in midweek. That was their third goalless draw in 7 games. They haven't won in their last 9, kind of edging closer to the relegation zone there. So I think this is a really tough one for Mansfield. Looking at the correct score market, maybe a 3-0 Arsenal win sounds about right. Obviously with Champions League to come next week, Mikel Arteta is going to be very wary of unleashing his really important players. But I think Arsenal have got plenty in hand, and they should come through this nicely.
Yeah, I think if this was at the turn of the year when Mansfield were pushing for the playoffs, it would be a much tougher game. But as Milt says, recent form suggests that it should be Arsenal all the way. Perhaps a more likely possibility of a cup upset comes at the Racecourse Ground on Saturday evening. A 5:45 kickoff for Wrexham against Chelsea. It's the one that basically the media have been talking about since that draw was made, of course. Wrexham 21-4 to claim the win here. It's 21-50 Chelsea and 4-1 the draw. And I think what makes this even more intriguing, really, Milts, is the inconsistency of Chelsea. You see them one week and you wonder, where they're heading under Liam Rosenior, and then midweek they pop up and they absolutely thump Aston Villa by 4-1.
Yeah, absolutely. Really impressive result for them. Now, I wouldn't be getting too carried away because I think, as we've seen, Villa are on a downward spiral after overperforming spectacularly in the first half of the season. So maybe that said more about Villa than it did about Chelsea. But there's no surprise that this one's been marked out as a potential shock. Still got vivid memories of the BBC grandstand coverage of Wrexham beating Arsenal in 1992. And this wouldn't be quite such a seismic shock given the Wrexham's 3 promotions in a row, and they're actually lively runners for another one. We've been going brilliantly in the Championship recently. I'm looking at goals in this one. I think over 3.5 goals at odds against is a great bet. Chelsea's first 2 cup games under Liam Rosenior won 5-1 at Charlton and 4-0 at Hull. I think Wrexham posed a far greater threat. In the third round, they had that 3-3 draw with Nottingham Forest and then came through on penalties. They're full of confidence. Ipswich are still pretty much rated the best team in the Championship, I think. They lost 5-3 at the Racecourse Ground recently. So I'm expecting a real cup cracker in Wales.
It might be 30-odd years on, but still the thought of Mickey Thomas and Steve Watkins sending shudders through James Milton. I wonder whether Wrexham stars of the current day can make themselves a name on Saturday evening as well. Sticking with Saturday, but a little bit later on, we'll have the All-Premier League affair of Newcastle against Manchester City, an 8 o'clock kickoff at St James's Park. 23-10 it is for Newcastle, 19-20 City, and the draw around 29-10. I'm starting to wonder whether Eddie Howe should be sending 10 players out on a regular occasions from the start, Mills, because Newcastle seem to have put in best performances when they are down to 10 men.
That's right, isn't it? I mean, they were fantastic in that early season game against Liverpool with 10 men, and then and did it again against Manchester United on Wednesday. Jacob Ramsey sent off right at the end of the first half, and managed to not only hold out but actually get a late winner against a United side who've been in really good form. Having said that, Newcastle, another team who punters are really struggling to trust on a week by week basis. Their previous 2 home games, they'd lost 3-2 to Brentford and Everton. I think City are going to grind it out here. Manchester City to win an under 3.5 goals looks the bet. It's the 5th meeting between these clubs this season. Already played twice in the league, and then of course in the EFL Cup semi-final where Newcastle really disappointing as holders. Blown away by City 5-1 on aggregate. And I mean, the FA Cup is obviously fair way down Pep Guardiola's list of priorities. But I think he'll want a response after that really disappointing draw in midweek with Forest, and I think they should be able to grind it out. City in the first two FA Cup rounds, they had that remarkable 10-1 win over Exeter. They only actually had 10 shots on target, so incredible efficiency there, helped by a couple of own goals. Then the following round, there were 2-0 winners against Salford. I expect a bit more of a grind on Saturday night when they head to St James's Park.
Okay, well, 4 ties down, 4 to go. Just to quickly to mark your card to look out for the March free bet offers on racingpost.com. An ideal time to do it, of course, with the Cheltenham Festival coming up next week. Make sure that you also check out the Racing Post Recommend section, our bookmaker advice service and betting strategies to follow. Okay, then, 4 more FA Cup 5th round ties then to delve into, and we'll start off with a 12 noon kickoff on Sunday, and this promises to be a fascinating clash between Premier League and Championship as Fulham play host to Southampton. Fulham 8-15 here to claim the win, 3-1 the draw, and 5-1 Southampton, who come into this, Milton, good form.
Yeah, absolutely. Scoring bundles of goals, aren't they? I think it's 15 in their last 5 matches under Tondra Eckert, and yeah, I think they can land a blow on the Fulham's defence. It should be a really entertaining game, this one, actually. Fulham obviously lost a scrappy game 1-0 to West Ham in midweek, but overall they're kind of on the verge of top half of the Premier League table and should be able to take the FA Cup pretty seriously. I like the look of Fulham to win and both teams to score. They've played Championship sides in their first 2 rounds, and that's been a winning bet. They beat Middlesbrough 3-1, who are obviously going really well in the Championship, and then 1-2-1 away to Stoke. Fulham fans will be waiting for a bulletin on Harry Wilson, who's been fantastic for them this season. He missed the West Ham game, and they certainly lacked they were lacking a little bit of spark without him. But he hasn't started either of the first 2 games. He did come off the bench and score against Borough. So even if he doesn't make it, I think Fulham probably got enough class to see off Southampton. But it should be a lively, high-scoring game, I reckon.
Yeah, as part of the jury feature in the Racing Post, we were asked back in the 3rd round who we thought might reach the final, and I actually put Fulham's name forward because I thought they would be safe from Premier League relegation jeopardy, and they've not really got much to play for, so they can fully focus on the FA Cup, and you would, as Milt said there, expect them on home soil to progress to the quarterfinals. Up next, it is a League One Premier League clash again, and this time it's at Vale Park at 1:30 on Sunday for Port Vale against Sunderland. Port Vale, of course, knocking Bristol City out in midweek, a 13-2 to pull off another big upset this time around. It's 7-2 the draw and 21-50 Sunderland. Can you make any case for Port Vale here, Milt, or is it going to be Sunderland all the way?
I think probably the case for Port Vale is that Sunderland don't really score any goals away from home, do they? Obviously, had the 1-0 winner at Leeds on Tuesday, which was a great result, but Habib Diarra's penalty was their only shot on target there. So I expect Vale to be competitive for the first half. I like the look of the draw Sunderland double result there. Vale, as you mentioned, knocked out Bristol City in midweek. That game, I think, was postponed due to a waterlogged pitch, but they needed extra time to do it. 5 of their 6 wins in the EFL Cup and the FA Cup this season have been by 1-0 scoreline, and obviously really struggling in League One as well. So I'm not sure they've got the attacking tools to hurt Sunderland, but at the same time, Sunderland pretty prosaic in terms of creativity, particularly away from home. And I think they may have to work hard to break down Vale. Early in the season, Arsenal went to Vale Park in the EFL Cup and only won 2-0. So I think it could be a similar kind of story for Sunderland.
Okay, two more matches left to preview in the FA Cup fifth round, and we'll start with the 4:30 clash on Sunday. It's a bit of friends reunited for the Leeds United boss Daniel Farke as he comes up against his former club Norwich. Leeds 4-9 here to claim the victory, 6-1 Norwich, and the draw 7-2. It's been a long old while since Leeds United were FA Cup winners, going back to 1972, Milton. Got really good opportunity here to go really deep in the competition.
Yeah, I mean, the betting suggests that this is a good draw for them, but I'm just wary of, as we've mentioned earlier in the show, you have to look at the context for these Premier League clubs. And Leeds, despite, it feels like they've been on a really consistent run of form for the last 3 months or so, but they're still not quite won enough games to really give themselves that breathing space. And as we've seen now, West Ham and Forest and other teams in the relegation fight are picking up. So I think it's a tricky one for Leeds, this, because Norwich are also absolutely flying in the Championship. Since Philippe Clement took over, I mean, I think they were in the relegation zone, which they never should have been given the squad they had. So I'm not sure Clement's done anything particularly special, but he's certainly getting a great tune out of them. And I'd be tempted to have a small bet on Norwich to qualify, kind of bigger than 3-1. I just think Leeds will be not at full strength, certainly, and needed penalties to get past Birmingham in the last round. And Norwich, particularly away from home, been really, really good recently. Won 5 of their last 6 on the road, and the only blot on that record was a 1-0 defeat at Middlesbrough, going for the title, and that again was a really tight game. Could have gone either way. So yeah, I have a little bet on the Canaries to silence Elland Road this weekend.
Okay, well, last but not least, it's a Monday night fifth round tie at the London Stadium where West Ham will play host to Brentford in another of those all Premier League ties. The Hammers 21-10 here to progress to the quarterfinals. Brentford 5-4, and it's 12-5 the draw. Really interesting one, this, Milton. It's, I suppose, again, an indication of how strong that either manager goes here in terms of starting lineup. Brentford probably can afford to risk a few more players than West Ham, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think this one should be a little easier than some of the other ties to kind of second guess the manager's selections because, surely Keith Andrews is going to go stronger than Nuno in this one, given their respective league positions. Brentford having this fantastic campaign, given that it was doom and gloom at the start of the season. And West Ham, after that win at Craven Cottage, they really are in the thick of the survival battle, and I just think Nuno is gonna not take any risks at all with his key players. He named a much changed team at Burton in the previous round. Burton really struggling in League One, and West Ham needed extra time to get past them. So I think that there is a significant drop off between West Ham's first team and the reserves. I think if Brentford have anything like their strongest 11, I think they're a really nice bet at odds against. They've been terrific away from home recently. Obviously drew 0-0 at Bournemouth on Tuesday, but before then they'd won 7 out of 8 on the road in all competitions. The exception was at Chelsea, where they actually played really well, lost 2-0, but had 5 shots on target, and Chelsea only had 2. So yeah, I think if Keith Andrews goes as strong as I expect him to, I think Brentford are a really tasty bet.
Okay, well, that is the FA Cup fifth round ties covered then for this week. Ordinarily, we'd normally have a FPL update at this stage, but with no Premier League action, of course, we're going to head straight into the EFL best bets for the weekend. Before we give you Dan Childs' best bets across the Championship, League One and League Two, we're just going to have a quick chat, Milt, about the battle to avoid the drop into League One from the Championship. And now, Sheffield Wednesday, of course, already relegated, but as I mentioned at the start of the show, a relatively recent FA Cup winner in Leicester City could well be joining them in League One. And we're also looking at the prospect of West Brom going down as well. I mean, both of those two teams in all sorts of disarray as things stand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the ones I fear for more are probably West Brom, actually, who lost 2-1 at Oxford last time out. And Oxford are the only other team kind of in that scrap just below West Brom and Leicester. Obviously, Sheffield Wednesday tailed off. But, I think the way Oxford is shaping up, West Brom could really be in trouble. And just looking at the remaining fixtures, Oxford have got some nice home games against Charlton, Blackburn, and Sheffield Wednesday. You think they can bank some points there and really turn up the heat on West Brom. So yeah, certainly those two so-called big clubs at Championship level in real danger.
Yeah, and this weekend, by the way, it doesn't get much tougher than it does on Saturday for West Brom and Leicester, with games at Ipswich and Sheffield United. So real problems for both the Baggies and the Foxes going into this crucial stage of the Championship season. Just to quickly run you through then, Dan Childs' best bets across the EFL this week. He's actually gone for Sheffield United to beat West Brom at 3-4 at Bramall Lane. The Blades have won 3 of the last 4 games in the league, and they face, as we say, a Baggies team that haven't won in 11 league games, would you believe? No win in 2026. Complete lack of confidence. And Sheffield United is the pick in the Championship for Dan. In League One, he's going with league leaders Cardiff to beat Lincoln at 5-4. Lincoln, of course, one of those teams challenging for the automatic promotion places in the third tier as well. But Cardiff are a really good run of form at the moment, and a win here you would think would get them a big step towards sealing a place back in the Championship. And likewise in League Two, he's also going for a team that are heading towards potential promotion this season, and that is Swindon to beat Crawley, who are really struggling at the bottom or towards the bottom end of the League Two table. Swindon around about 6-5 to win that game at the County Ground. So just a reminder of Dan's best EFL bets this week. It's Sheffield United, Cardiff and Swindon. And we'll head to the Assist Treble selection now for this week. Milts, we'll start with your pick first.
Yeah, I'm going for Strasbourg to beat Auxerre in Ligue 1. Strasbourg now managed by Gary O'Neill, obviously after Liam Rosenior left for Chelsea in January. And they're going really well, reached the semi-finals of the Coupe de France this week and had some good results in the league recently. Won 4-1 at Lille and beat Inform Lyon 3-1. And Auxerre really struggling. Failed to score in 6 of their last 8 league matches. So I think Strasbourg should be far too strong for them.
We will get James's bet builder, by the way, for the Wrexham-Chelsea clash in a moment or so's time. But in terms of Dan's selection for the treble, he is going with Sheffield United to beat West Brom, as we mentioned earlier on in the Championship. And my pick is in League One, where I'm going with Plymouth to beat Doncaster at around about 19-20. You might be able to get evens on Plymouth as well. The home team still harbouring hopes of making a late run in the playoffs, with 7 points separating Plymouth from 6th place Wickham at the moment. The Pilgrims had won 3 on the spin prior to last weekend's 1-0 loss at Rotherham. They did say that fatigue may have set in after so many away games recently. Prior to that loss at Rotherham, they'd thumped leaders Cardiff 5-2 at home park. Only 4th bottom Leyton Orient have conceded more League One goals than Doncaster this season, who have shipped 55 in 33 games. And Plymouth have also won the last 3 meetings between the two teams as well, including a 5-1 success at the Keepmoat Stadium in December. So that is your Assist Treble pick for this week then. As I say, we'll get an FA Cup bet builder for you to follow now. And Mills, I think we're looking, as I say, at the Wrexham-Chelsea game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think this is a tricky one for Chelsea. I'm going for Wrexham or draw double chance as the first leg. We've mentioned Chelsea's inconsistency. They've had those grueling trips to Arsenal, obviously, where they played with 10 men for the last 20 minutes, and then to Villa Park in midweek. And I think Wrexham are certainly capable of avoiding defeat in 90 minutes, knocked Nottingham Forest out in the 3rd round, and absolutely flying in the Championship. I mentioned that impressive 5-3 victory over Ipswich recently. I think they've got a great chance of an upset here.
Yeah. It's leg 2 of the bet builder.
Yeah, there should be goals in this one. Both teams to score has been a winner in 8 of Chelsea's last 10 matches under Liam Rosenior. I think there are only clean sheets in that run. Came against Paphos in the Champions League and Hull in the FA Cup. And mentioned earlier, Wrexham full of goals in the Championship, and that game against Forest finished 3-3 in the 3rd round.
And the last but not least, 3rd tip of this week's bet builder.
Yeah, well, I was at the Emirates Stadium last weekend to watch that classic game between Arsenal and Chelsea. So I saw Chelsea's struggles defending corners at first hand. And Max Clayworth to have one or more shots is the final leg of the bet builder. Really, really dangerous aerial threat. The Wrexham defender scored 7 goals in League One last season and averages 1.2 shots per 90 minutes at home in the Championship this season. So I reckon he may well get a sight of the Chelsea goal.
Yeah, I didn't want to say this before Milt's read out his options for the bet builder, but he's under pressure this week because Mark Langdon's got back-to-back bet builder success. He got another win last week at 4-1. And also, we should have mentioned as well that the assist treble came in last week as well at 3-1. So a good run of form as things stand at the moment. And finally, for this week's show, we're going to get a nap of the week from James as well. What we're looking at here, Milt?
Yeah, I'm going for both teams to score in the La Liga clash between Atletico Madrid and Real Sociedad. These teams will be meeting in the Copa del Rey final next month. Atletico nearly blew a 4-0 first leg lead against Barcelona. They lost 3-0 in the second leg this week, but really strong at home. Their last home fixture in La Liga was a 4-2 victory over Espanyol, and Real Sociedad's games are full of goals. Both teams have scored in 16 of their last 18 league matches.
Okay, that is James's nap then for this week. A big thanks to James Milton for his input on this special FA Cup assist show. Don't forget, of course, to like, subscribe and comment on the Racing Post YouTube channel. And I can't go without mentioning the fact that it is, of course, the Cheltenham Festival next week. In the know, up in the ante. Good morning, Cheltenham, across the week on the Racing Post YouTube channel. Loads more content as well to look forward to. Make sure that you check it all out in the build-up to the action at Prestbury Park. The Assist, of course, will return next Thursday at the same time as the Premier League returns. But also, make sure you join us for the Euro Assist on Monday as we look forward to the Champions League last 16 ties. Plenty going on, of course, then next week. In the meantime, enjoy your football this weekend. And as ever, please remember to gamble responsibly.